Thank you for joining us on tonight. I am Dr. Lavella McGarry, and with me, I have Apostle Racheal Benjamin, a seer, a troubleshooter. Though her voice is soft yet and poised, you could still feel the weight of the glory. And my prayer is tonight for those that are listening, those that are trying to identify who they are. Um, Ask question as to what time or what's your function, what's your role in regards to the prophetic, that her words will not only activate, it'll stir, and it also will align time for you. We're talking about Prophetic Ethics, a book written for the millennials, the generation X, and also generation Z, that when they're reading or trying to find themselves in an information age, that this book will be the guide. This book will be the handbook. This book will be the one that will come alive for them. So I'm thankful for the voices that are amplifying time, speaking from an era of time to a time that's 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead. So, Apostle, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are.
I am Apostle Racheal Benjamin, aka Apostle Ray, originally from New York City and down here now in Jessup, Georgia, via Charleston, South Carolina. Been in ministry over 20 years.
Mm,
And I'm just excited to be here to be a part of this project and just to be one of the voices that God is using in this time.
mm. Thank you so much for that. What about this project leaped at you or got your attention?
When I saw the chapter Rules of Engagement, that's always an
Mm,
important thing for me because you cannot dare to contend against the enemy when you don't understand who he is. And
mm,
neither can you be successful when you don't know who you are in God, because he will
mm,
come at you with all kinds of things. He will tell you how insignificant you are. He will point out, and you will point out, you will mirror, you will regurgitate, you will recite until you
mm,
are delivered all of the things that you might have heard within yourself, that you wrestle with within yourself. One of the things that I find is that we tend to blame everything on the enemy. We blame
mm.
everything on the devil. The
Yes.
devil did this, the devil did that. Okay, but now what about those things that you internally, psychologically wrestle with? There's the
Mm,
devil's voice, there's God's voice, and then there's your own voice.
mm,
How do you identify yourself? The only way you can do that successfully is knowing who you are in God, in the
mm,
mind of God, in the sight of God. What does He think of you? How does He see you? When you are able to identify this, then you're able to properly armor yourself to go against the enemy. And how do we do this? By
mm,
spending time with God. I'm not talking about 5 or 10 minutes.
mm.
That's good for the beginner. But when you're trying to identify who you are, when you're trying to go into the higher heights and the
Yes.
deeper depths that he's calling us out to, the deep called out the deep, when you want to go to that place called there, it's going to
Mm,
require the sacrifice of you getting there. That
mm.
means more time, spending time praying, meditating, sometimes laying prostrate for hours. I remember when I was in my mid to late 20s, I would lay out for hours at a time,
Yes.
prostrate,
Mm.
just listening, not doing all the talking, not doing all the blabbermouth stuff that we do,
Yes.
about
Yes. Yes.
telling God about all the things you want and all the things that you need that He already knows,
Yes.
spending all this time, useless time, many times because He's already worked those things out. What else
Yes.
do you want from Him besides Him being a bellboy? What else do you
Mm.
desire of Him? And when you want that interpersonal relationship that's going to take you where you need to go, you're going to sacrifice that time and give it to Him. Let Him talk to you. There were days I said absolutely nothing.
Mm.
and just laid out. There were times of consecration, putting away the TV, putting away the phone. Not that I talk a lot on the phone anyway, but
Yes.
putting away all those exterior distractions and just spending that time with God, spending time in the Word, because again, you are going to identify yourself through God using His Word.
Yes.
I need you also to understand
Mm.
that while you're reading the Bible and while you're digesting all that God has to say, as you're looking at the prototypes,
Mm.
you don't get lost in trying to become that prototype. There's only one Elijah.
Yes. Yes.
There's only one Jeremiah. You're not Jeremiah. I don't care if your name is Jeremiah. You're not that Jeremiah. We're reading those things. We're reading these stories. You're reading these as prototypes. We're studying these to get an idea of how God uses them,
Mm.
what God wants to do with them, but how God
Yes.
is going to use you. I promise you, it's going to be very different. You look at it, he
Mm.
didn't use Ezekiel the way he used Isaiah. Two different
Mm.
prophets. There are some
Come
similarities
on.
that you
Come
will
on.
find between them all. There's some threadings that you will
Mm.
find that will say, okay, this is similar. But when it comes to personality, he uses our personalities. He uses those things that are in our makeup to make us effective. I don't need to be a copycat because
Yes.
I want to be effective. Don't be afraid to be the quote unquote Joshua of your time. If you think about this, Joshua, and this is another requirement, you're going to have to study under somebody. You're going to have to be nurtured under somebody. You're going to have to receive some training under someone, under a trusted voice, not a manipulative voice, but a trusted voice that can say, hey, son, hey, daughter, let's study this. Let's read this. Come go with me here. Let me
Mm.
show you this. This is what we need. We have a lot of renegades, a lot of rebels without a cause, with a cause. But God wants servants who are willing to study, who are willing to learn, who are willing to hear his voice through the voices that he chooses to use and nurture them and guide them. This is what he's looking for. This is what it's going to take to get you to that place called there. It's not an easy walk. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you will acquire. And I don't care how many times you're anointed, how many services you go to, how many folks laid hands on you. This is a journey. And I need you to understand that it's a journey. There's no rush in a journey. You enjoy the trip. You enjoy the trip as you go. As you go, God lets us know what he needs of us. As you go, you begin to understand some words that I've heard 20, 30 years ago. Now I understand. Now I understand the full meaning of them. Now I understand the weight of them. I also would need you to understand that you don't understand the full weight of who you are right away. This takes time and God, solely time and God. But it is a journey that is much well worthy of undergoing, because you will see God do things and use you in ways that will absolutely blow your mind. He'll blow your mind. So I would advise anyone who thinks that God is calling you to this area, prophecy, to take your time. Learn the voice of God. Learn the voice of God. He will even express to you when you need to say something and when you need to be quiet, because there are some things that He will reveal to us just to pray. I don't want you to say anything to anybody. I just need you to pray. There are sometimes God will reveal things to us just so that we can be the seer. I want you to see this. I want you to note this. I want you to write this. There are some things that are revealed to us that He will have a specific audience that we are to relay that message to. And then there are times when we just go for broke. But it is as you progress in Him, as you progress in the prophetic, that you will begin to understand exactly what it is that you are to do. It's what it is. So I want you to embrace this moment, embrace this time, and take your time. Take your time.